Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Saya Ahmad Farhan Hanafi bin Mohamad Noor, nomor metrik BP 19110258. Jadi pada kali ini saya akan membentangkan mengenai laporan berdasarkan kepada soalan-soalan yang telah kami sekumpulan ajukan kepada sebuah organisasi. Organisasi ini telah kami pilih dan sepakati sekumpulan, yaitu Organisasi Khidmat Manusia. Organisasi Khidmat Manusia yang kami telah pilih ini bernama Pusat Seri Mengasih Sabah. Oleh itu, terdapat beberapa soalan yang telah diajukan, dan daripada saya sendiri telah mengajukan 5 soalan kepada wakil daripada organisasi tersebut. Antara soalan-soalan yang telah diajukan adalah seperti berikut. Untuk menjawab soalan yang pertama, Pusat Seri Mengasih telah menjalankan fungsinya hampir genap 40 tahun memasuki tahun ini. Ianya telah bermula sekitar tahun 1981, yaitu pada bulan Januari. Pada tahun 1980, yaitu setahun sebelum 1981, pada ketika itu tidak didapati lagi sekolah khas untuk golongan OKU. Maksud OKU dalam konteks kajian ini adalah OKU dari segi intelek. OKU intelek ini adalah semacam kanak-kanak yang menghidapi penyakit khusus. Contohnya penyakit tersebut adalah seperti penyakit Down syndrome, sepsis, ataupun apa sahaja bentuk masalah dari segi perkembangan IQ. Masalah daripada segi intelektual, perkembangan intelektual. Jadi pada sekitar ketika tahun 1980, selama 41 tahun yang lalu, mereka ini, golongan-golongan khusus ini, seringkali disalahartikan oleh masyarakat. Mereka ini dianggap sebagai gila. Ketika mereka dimasukkan ke sekolah, pergi ke sekolah seperti biasa, mereka ini mempunyai tingkah laku yang tertentu. Tingkah laku ini adalah bersifat tingkah laku negatif, yaitu disruptif. Seperti contoh-contohnya, tingkah laku mereka mengganggu rakan lain ketika berada di dalam kelas. Ataupun mereka ini bertingkah laku tidak duduk diam, yaitu bergerak bebas, dan mereka juga tidak menumpukan perhatian semasa waktu sesi pembelajaran di kelas. Setelah pakar psikiatri datang daripada luar, datang ke Sabah, mereka ini telah membuat kajian dan membuat penelitian tentang isu ini. Mereka ini datang dengan kajian dan menjelaskan bahawa kebenaran di sebalik penyakit ini sebenarnya mereka ini adalah bukan gila. Banyak yang menyangka mereka ini mempunyai masalah jiwa ataupun sakit mental. Jadi pakar telah menjelaskan bahawa ini adalah bukan gila, sebaliknya ini adalah masalah perkembangan dari segi IQ. Pakar telah menjelaskan ini adalah masalah perkembangan intelektual. Oleh itu, pada tahun 1981 adalah tahun di mana Pusat Seri Mengasih berfungsi buat pertama kalinya, dan pada ketika itu merupakan satu-satunya di Sabah untuk menguruskan golongan-golongan OKU ini, yaitu OKU dari segi intelektual. Seterusnya, bagi soalan kedua, pengasas kepada organisasi ini ataupun organisasi Pusat Seri Mengasih ini sebenarnya adalah hasil daripada gabungan kerjasama pihak-pihak tertentu. Pengasasnya sebenarnya adalah Mental Health Association ataupun Persatuan Kesehatan Mental. Pakar daripada organisasi kesehatan mental telah datang dari luar, telah datang ke Sabah untuk melakukan kajian, dan mereka ini ingin membantu golongan-golongan khusus yang menghadapi masalah seperti ini, yaitu golongan OKU dari segi intelektual. Oleh itu, Pusat Seri Mengasih ini telah pun dibentuk. Walau bagaimanapun, pada tahun sekarang ini ataupun waktu sekarang, organisasi khidmat manusia Pusat Seri Mengasih ini tidak lagi berada di bawah naungan Mental Health Association. Mereka ini bukan lagi berada di bawah Persatuan Kesehatan Mental, tetapi sudah menjadi badan bebas ataupun berdiri dengan sendirinya. Untuk soalan yang seterusnya, soalan 3, yaitu mengenai misi dan visi. Misi dan visi Pusat Seri Mengasih adalah untuk seeks to raise hope and dignity of the intellectually disabled, yaitu mencari jalan untuk memperkasa dan meningkatkan harapan serta maruah golongan intellectuality OKU. Misi dan visi ini dicapai dengan cara membantu perkembangan mereka secara holistik, yaitu menyeluruh, bermula dari usia yang muda hingga mereka mampu mencapai satu tahap yang tertentu. Satu tahap tertentu di mana mereka diharapkan mereka mampu menceburi dan juga bertahan dalam alam pekerjaan. Pada ketika itu, mereka juga diharapkan mampu untuk terus hidup sendiri, yaitu hidup berdikari. Mereka pandai mengurus diri. Seterusnya, mereka juga berjaya untuk menjalinkan interaksi, yaitu mereka masuk ke dalam kehidupan bermasyarakat, kemudian terus hidup secara berkomuniti. Bagi soalan yang keempat, menurut Miss Jenny Tam, yaitu salah seorang yang telah kami temu bual, beliau adalah hanya seorang guru pada mulanya. Yaitu berarti apabila pertama kali Pusat Seri Mengasih itu Untuk soalan yang keempat, menurut Miss Jenny Tam, yaitu salah seorang wakil daripada organisasi tersebut yang telah kami temu bual, beliau adalah hanya seorang guru pada awalnya, yaitu guru yang bertugas di Pusat Seri Mengasih. Akan tetapi, beliau juga mula terlibat sejak kebelakangan ini dalam pengurusan dan pentadbiran, yaitu beliau ini berposisi sebagai pengarah dalam projek-projek tertentu. Hal ini kerana beliau sudah lama berkhidmat dalam organisasi ini, yaitu sejak organisasi ini dibentuk. Dan pertama kali organisasi ini dibentuk, beliau adalah seorang guru pada ketika itu. Akan tetapi, pada permulaan masa beliau berkhidmat juga, beliau itu berperanan sebagai asisten, yaitu pembantu kepada pentadbir organisasi pada ketika itu. Oleh itu, beliau sedikit sebanyak mengetahui tentang pengurusan dalam organisasi ini. Dan kebelakangan ini, beliau telah menjalankan kerja-kerja mengurus, yaitu berposisi sebagai pengarah kepada projek-projek tertentu. Untuk soalan yang terakhir, yaitu berkaitan dengan latar belakang pendidikan, Miss Jenny Tam menjelaskan tentang latar pendidikannya yang berkaitan dengan pekerjaan beliau sekarang. Beliau adalah postgraduated dalam bidang special education, yaitu pendidikan istimewa di UK University, Castle University pada tahun 1989. Itu adalah sedikit sebanyak mengenai latar belakang pendidikan beliau yang berkaitan dengan pekerjaan beliau sekarang. Sekian daripada saya mengenai soalan-soalan, yaitu 5 soalan yang telah diajukan kepada organisasi tersebut. Sekian, terima kasih.
Seri Mengasih's workers' quality, the staffs need to at least have an SPM or STPM certificate, and staffs also need to have the understanding quality. As most have not been trained in special education for intellectually disabled children, it is important for workers to have at least an SPM certificate to ensure training new workers of Seri Mengasih to go smoothly. Staffs working at Seri Mengasih are required to be very understanding as teaching the students there takes a lot of patience and effort, and the students need a lot of assistance to understand their tasks. The workers at Seri Mengasih are first tested or tried out and are observed for 1 or 2 weeks. They are then given probation to sharpen their skills. They also get the opportunity to train outside of Malaysia. According to feedbacks from other people, compared to other special education schools, Seri Mengasih students are one of the best. This proves Seri Mengasih's workers' quality to be good. Feelings in Seri Mengasih service. Seri Mengasih feels unsatisfied with the services provided as there are more goals in service that they would like to achieve. One of them is to provide more service, especially to their students, for older intellectually disabled people.
My name is Nicole Dela Cruz, and today I'm going to present what are the challenges that Seri Mengasih Center face in administrating their organizations and how they overcome this challenge. As we know, each of the human service organizations will be facing the challenge, especially for the non-profit organization like Seri Mengasih Center. The greatest challenge that had been mentioned in administrating Seri Mengasih Center is in terms of financial. As the principals of Seri Mengasih, Madam Jenny Tam said, they will face the same situations every year where they need to find the contributors that willing to make fund in their organizations. Other than that, Madam Jenny also said in the interview before that the parent contribution to contribute in the financials are less than 50%, which is mean they only get less than the targeted amount. So the non-profit organizations, not like others profit-making organizations where the customers need to pay the service fees, and from there they can make income to support and provide the best service to their customer. So to cover up these issues, Seri Mengasih Center had been found the other ways to solve these financial issues. One of the effective way to overcome this issue is by making the fundraisings every year. But all goes well in a few years ago when managing the fundraisings to help this HSO in terms of financial because of the good economics condition. But unfortunately, early 2020, after the pandemic outbreak, it becoming the biggest issues to raise funds for these organizations because of the limitations during this time. Other than that, this pandemic has caused Seri Mengasih Center need to postpone the operations to avoid the COVID-19 infections between the students. But the students are still continue their learning sessions as usual in their own home, guided by the teachers in Seri Mengasih by online learning. Madam Jenny also said that to prevent the student to experience the depressions during this critical time, they need to make an extra effort, which is they need to make a video calls on WhatsApp with the students and the parents. And by making video calls and interact with both students and parents, they hope it can help them in terms of to reduce their stress and their depression levels. During this pandemic, Seri Mengasih Center also need to do the reductions among the employees due to this crisis, and this caused the less enthusiastic between the workers. Seri Mengasih workers were 30 staff in total before the reductions, but after that only 11 staff are remained. To overcome it, Madam Jenny and the other workers had come with the great ideas to gain some money since the fundraising was hard to do during this time. To support the organizations in terms of financial, Madam Jenny and her staff started to open the homemade bakery and a small nursery garden where they can start to sell their products to gain some money to help the organizations. And the other challenge of Seri Mengasih Center is to help their students to get a job after they go out from this center. This can be the other greatest challenge because they need to approach the employers out there to take their students to be an employee and give them opportunity to experience the work that they seek or need. But not all the employers are willing to take them for the permanent worker. Instead, what they do is just give them the students of Seri Mengasih Center an opportunity to experience the work surrounding only for 1 or 2 months only, depending to the employer. As the principal of Seri Mengasih Center, Madam Jenny Stam really worried about her student well-being in the future after they no longer be in the center. The next challenge of Seri Mengasih Center is to help the student with a future planning. Seri Mengasih is very aware about their children's well-being in the future because the students are not live in the center but with their own parents. As the students grow older, so does their parents, and this has made Madam Jenny afraid of because she worried her students cannot be independent enough to survive without their parents. These issues has made Seri Mengasih need to think and make a future planning for their students to make sure they can be independent in the future without help from others. And to overcome this challenge, Seri Mengasih Center need to teach and give the right skill for these students so that they can master it and use it in the future. Next is we move to the what kind of services that Seri Mengasih Center provide towards society. Seri Mengasih Center, as we know, is a non-government organization. It operates as a day developmental training center for individuals from kids to adults whose lives are affected by intellectuals and development disabilities, IDD, including those on the autism spectrum disorder, ASD, Down syndrome, and cerebral palsy, CP. Currently, Seri Mengasih provides support services to both preschools and primary school in Kota Kinabalu with a special needs children suit with their enrollment. This support consists of monitoring the progress of children and providing in-house training for the staff at the same time. Besides, Seri Mengasih Center also have a parent support group. This parent support group is an active group which contributes to the life of this center. This group is the member of Seri Mengasih staff and also the other parents, where they work together with this center and they sometimes help the meeting, which they have two main functions, where they need to raise funds for the center's operation costs and also to organize the social events for the families of the disabled children. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Baiklah, saya Mohamad Hadzfarizal akan meneruskan pembentangan. Seterusnya, Puan Jenny Tam menyatakan bahawa Seri Mengasih ada didatangi oleh beberapa wakil dari parti politik yang hadir dan memberikan bantuan kepada organisasi hikmat manusia ini sepanjang beliau berkhidmat di Seri Mengasih. Namun begitu, Puan Jenny Tam enggan menyatakan parti-parti politik yang telah memberikan bantuan kepada Seri Mengasih tersebut kerana beliau risau jika terdapat beberapa parti politik yang mungkin tidak akan dinyatakan atau terlepas oleh beliau kerana terdapat banyak parti politik yang telah memberikan bantuan sepanjang beliau berkhidmat di Seri Mengasih. Parti-parti politik yang datang dan memberikan bantuan telah meringankan sedikit beban yang dihadapi oleh Seri Mengasih yang merupakan sebuah organisasi yang tidak memfokuskan untuk mendapatkan keuntungan semata-mata. Oleh itu, Seri Mengasih sangat memerlukan bantuan dari pihak-pihak lain dalam terus beroperasi membantu pelajar OKU ini. Seri Mengasih sangat mengalu-alukan kedatangan ahli dari mana-mana parti politik dalam memberi sumbangan kepada mereka kerana ia akan meringankan sedikit beban sekaligus meningkatkan lagi kepercayaan mereka terhadap parti-parti politik ini. Seterusnya, bantuan-bantuan yang diberikan oleh parti politik tersebut terbahagi kepada dua, iaitu jenis barangan dan dalam bentuk wang ringgit. Puan Jen Hitam dengan perasaan yang sedih menyatakan bahawa bantuan yang diberikan adalah tidak mencukupi. Namun setiap tahun, Seri Mengasih akan mendapat bantuan dari parti ini dan menjadikan organisasi ini seringkali dapat menampung kos-kos dalam Seri Mengasih. Bantuan jenis barangan yang diberikan adalah seperti kerusi roda, meja belajar, alat belajar seperti alat tulis dan banyak lagi. Bantuan barangan seperti ini akan bertahan lebih lama dan akan mengurangkan sedikit kos perbelanjaan peralatan dan perabot untuk Seri Mengasih. Seterusnya, Puan Jen Hitam juga ada menyatakan bahawa bantuan dalam bentuk wang ringgit adalah sangat penting kerana untuk menampung kos dalam organisasi yang besar seperti pembayaran bil elektrik dan juga bil air. Selain itu, pembayaran gaji pekerja dan kos-kos luar jangka organisasi. Organisasi ini juga telah membuat beberapa pendapatan dalam pengumpulan dana seperti mereka telah membuat kebun mini dan mendapatkan hasil dari jualan tersebut. Selain itu, penglibatan ibu bapa juga sangat digalakkan dalam sama-sama membantu dan memberi bantuan kepada organisasi ini. Seri Mengasih sering mencari pelbagai sumber untuk menampung perbelanjaan organisasi dan sebagainya. Seri Mengasih ini juga tidak menawarkan sebarang perkhidmatan kepada kanak-kanak yang dibiarkan ataupun ditinggalkan atau orang-orang tua selain daripada fokus utama mereka, iaitu kepada OKU sahaja. Hal ini kerana mereka ingin membantu mereka yang berstatuskan orang kelainan upaya agar tidak dipinggirkan oleh masyarakat dan diberikan peluang untuk bersama-sama dalam dunia pekerjaan dan sebagainya. Seri Mengasih ingin mengurangkan diskriminasi yang berlaku terhadap pelajar OKU ini seperti yang Puan Jen Hitam telah kongsikan kepada kami, iaitu terdapat diskriminasi semasa pelajar beliau ingin menyewa rumah namun tidak dipersetujui oleh pihak rumah kerana mengetahui penyewa merupakan daripada golongan OKU. Seri Mengasih menyediakan latihan yang terbaik kepada pelajar mereka agar mereka dapat menguasai beberapa kemahiran yang dapat digunakan semasa bekerja atau hal-hal lain. Contohnya, kemahiran membuat pembersihan, kemahiran menerima arahan dan kemahiran-kemahiran yang diperlukan dalam membantu diri sendiri dan orang lain. Puan Jen Hitam juga ada berkongsikan kegembiraan di mana terdapat pelajar-pelajar beliau yang telah pun diterima untuk bekerja. Contohnya, pelajar beliau yang sedang bekerja di KFC. Hal ini membuatkan beliau terharu dan berasa bangga kerana melahirkan pelajar yang berkualiti dan mampu menyesuaikan diri dengan masyarakat luar. Semasa perayaan pula, Puan Jen Hitam menyatakan bahawa mereka juga ada mendedahkan perayaan-perayaan yang terdapat di Malaysia kepada pelajar-pelajar mereka seperti perayaan Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Tahun Baru Cina, Deepavali, Hari Keamatan dan perayaan-perayaan lainnya. Mereka juga menjalankan aktiviti yang sama dengan sekolah-sekolah lain, iaitu seperti memainkan lagu-lagu yang berkaitan dengan perayaan atau membuat jamuan, iaitu pelajar diminta untuk membawa makanan dan minuman yang bersesuaian dengan perayaan yang disambut pada ketika itu. Contohnya, pelajar membawa kuih raya untuk dikongsikan bersama semasa jamuan Hari Raya Aidilfitri dan mereka juga diberikan limau Mandarin pada Tahun Baru Cina yang sudah pun menjadi simbolik kepada perayaan Tahun Baru Cina. Selain itu, mereka juga digalakkan untuk mengenakan pakaian yang bersesuaian dengan perayaan. Contohnya, memakai baju raya pada Hari Raya Aidilfitri dan Chongsam pada perayaan Tahun Baru Cina. Cara ini akan menjadikan pelajar dapat mengenal pasti pakaian perayaan, bukan sahaja pakaian perayaan bangsa sendiri, malah perayaan bangsa-bangsa di seluruh Malaysia. Aktiviti seperti ini akan menjadikan pelajar di Seri Mengasih akan terhindar dari sifat perkauman, iaitu sifat yang membeza-bezakan antara kaum dengan kaum yang lain. Walaupun mereka bergelar OKU, akan tetapi mereka juga perlu didedahkan dengan hal ini bagi memupuk sifat perpaduan. Seterusnya, aktiviti ini akan meningkatkan lagi semangat patriotik ataupun semangat perpaduan dalam kalangan pelajar di Seri Mengasih. Akhir sekali, Ponjen Hitam juga ada menyatakan bahawa terdapat belia yang menjadi sukarelawan dalam membantu organisasi Seri Mengasih. Belia-belia yang hadir adalah daripada kolej, sekolah dan universiti. University Malaysia Sabah juga pernah datang dan menjalankan aktiviti di Seri Mengasih. Antara aktiviti yang dilakukan oleh mereka adalah seperti gotong royong membersihkan kawasan Seri Mengasih. Selain itu, mereka juga ada mencantikkan kawasan dengan melukis mural-mural yang indah yang mampu memberi gambaran kepada pelajar di Seri Mengasih. Contohnya, mural bendera Malaysia dan rakyat yang berbilang kaum, dan mural pemandangan di tepi pantai yang dapat menggambarkan ketenangan kepada pelajar ini. Aktiviti sukan juga ada dilakukan bersama-sama dengan pelajar. Antara aktiviti sukan yang dijalankan hanyalah aktiviti yang ringan sahaja seperti berjoging, senam robik dan aktiviti riadah yang lain. Hal ini dapat meningkatkan lagi tahap kesihatan mereka dan merapatkan lagi hubungan antara belia dan pelajar. Begitu juga dengan hubungan antara universiti dan juga organisasi ini dapat dipupuk dengan lebih baik. Ponjen Hitam juga sangat gembira dengan adanya kehadiran sukarelawan ke Seri Mengasih yang datang dan meringankan beban sekaligus menceriakan suasana di Seri Mengasih.
Now we are going to see the interpretive element about human service organization. So, what does it mean to be a human service organization? Without organizations, the human service sector goals would not be possible. Human services is a wide range of disciplines, knowledge and skills focused on enhancing the well-being of people, both individually and collectively. There are many causes in the human service sector, so there are many organizations whose goals are to accomplish these goals. They use different methods to support the people they serve. A non-profit organization, which is NGO, is an organization that strives to fulfill an order or set of goals for a specific purpose. For example, a non-profit organization related to expanding healthcare services to the homeless. Non-profit organizations or NGOs belong to the private sector but take a position to receive funding from donors and grants without a revenue motive. Since it is not related to profit margins, non-profits can focus most of their resources on realizing their goals. They also often enjoy duty-free status and can receive subsidies from governments and foundations. In most cases, non-profit organizations have a fairly narrow focus on providing the ability to provide in-depth services. If you need to follow a broader approach, non-profit organizations can customize them to meet the needs of specific sectors of society. In this case, Seri Mengasih wants to reduce discrimination against people with disabilities, which is means OKU. As Mrs. Jenny Tam shared that there is discrimination when students want to rent a house but not approved by the house owner because they know the tenants are from disabled. Seri Mengasih provides the best training to their students so they can master some skills that can be used while working or other things. For example, cleaning skills, receiving instructions, and the skills needed to help themselves and others. Mrs. Jenny Tam also shared the joy where they are her students who have already been accepted for work. For example, is students who is working at KFC. This makes her overwhelmed and proud to produce quality students who are able to adapt to the outside world. Therefore, the quality of service that can be provided is very high compared to the target group. Participating in a non-profit organization can take the form of volunteering for the organization. This is a great way to step into the door and be considered more favorable for employability. Because non-profits have a philosophy of getting more from the less, they tend to demand a high degree of excellence from potential job candidates. In addition, you must earn an advanced degree to meet the minimum eligibility requirements. Finding an organization that supports a shared cause can start a career path that will reward you in terms of a job satisfaction. Now we are going to see the administrative element. So, what is this like to administer a human service organization? Human service organization implies the need to provide social services to those in need, social development and growth in the communities they choose to serve. In a global environment, this means that managers and employees need training to be able to meet the growing needs of the population and the spiritual diversity in the community. Furthermore, we are able to understand how to manage a human service organization through interviews conducted by members. The group members asked many questions that would be helpful for them in future about how to become an administrator of an organization. The manager of Seri Mengasih, Mrs. Jenny Tam, stated that human service organizations have expressed more concern for means than for the ends, focusing more on the equality of the services. Today, in order to be able to work for Seri Mengasih, the educational background ranges from having a Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, which is SPM or STPM certificate, to owning a degree certificate. As most do not have a special education background in which the workers have been trained in the special education for special children, it is important for the workers at this organization to have at least an SPM certification to ensure that training these workers to work with special children goes smoothly without any huge problems. Other than an educational background, staffs working for Seri Mengasih are required to be very understanding, as it takes a lot of patience and effort in teaching the students there. In the interview with Mrs. Jenny Tam, the current headmaster of Seri Mengasih, Mrs. Jenny Tam emphasized the importance of being understanding in all staffs, as she also shared a story of one of their former workers who had the educational background only up until year 6 in primary school, but was one of the best workers she ever met. Mrs. Jenny Tam said that she was amazed by these workers' inborn skills as a teacher and for the workers' high ability to understand and be patient while teaching the students there. In addition to educational background and the value of understanding, true determination is crucial. There had been plenty of workers who could only work at Seri Mengasih for a few days, with the shortest working period of only 1 day, as some of these workers realized that they could not endure working with the students there. This greatly shows that how it is not easy to teach and handle students with the intellectual disabilities, and why determination and being understanding is important. Being understanding helps remind those working in Seri Mengasih that the children they are working with are not like other children. It takes time for children with intellectual disabilities to understand every task they are being taught, and they need a lot of assistance to do these tasks. Mrs. Jenny Tam informed that for the new workers who are still having trouble in working with the students there but have a lot of potential. They will be given probation after 1 or 2 weeks of observation. Simply said, new workers are tested out and seeing that they have a determination and potential, they will be given even more training to help them be able to work with the students more efficiently. Moreover, workers in Seri Mengasih also has the opportunity to go for the training in different countries such as Japan to get a special education certificate. To Mrs. Jenny Tam, the workers' quality is ongoing as there is no stopping when it comes to improving their skills. According to the feedbacks from other people, compared to other special education schools, the students of Seri Mengasih are one of the best. This is the proof that the staffs are good and competent at teaching their students, proving Seri Mengasih's workers' work quality. As someone who has worked with Seri Mengasih since the organization began operating in 1981, Mrs. Jenny Tam is still unsatisfied as there are still more goals that she would like Seri Mengasih to achieve. One of them is to provide more services for the intellectually disabled people, especially their students once they have grown older. One of the Mrs. Jenny's hopes is that her pilot project with the parents of her students to be achieved. The pilot project is home where the students can go to work and go home by bus, which she also calls the Independent Home Project. However, there are obstacles for Seri Mengasih has to overcome, which includes the current ongoing pandemic and also society's attitude towards the intellectually disabled. Mrs. Jenny Tam informed that finding a home to begin the pilot project was difficult as no one wanted to have intellectually disabled people as their neighbors having prejudice against them. So, human service organizations sometimes have unclear and fuzzy goals. But Seri Mengasih has clear goals they want to achieve. With this pilot project and other projects in mind, Mrs. Jenny Tam is still unsatisfied with the services Seri Mengasih provides as she hopes to be able to provide more for the intellectually disabled. Therefore, being a director or either manager is important in managing the financial and literary sector as the manager can get a framework for how the organization's goal has been achieved. Mrs. Jenny Tam manages his own financial records as she has no power to pay more employees. Mrs. Jenny Tam also hosts a meeting with VIPs who wish to contribute to his organization. Each of the human service organization will be facing the challenge, especially for the non-profit organization like Seri Mengasih Center. The greatest challenges that had been mentioned in administrating Seri Mengasih Center is in terms of financial. As the principals of Seri Mengasih, Madam Jenny said that they will face the same situation every year where they need to find the contributors that willing to make fund in their organization during this pandemic. Seri Mengasih Center is the non-profit organization, which is mean to this organization are not the profit-making organization based on the interview's statement. Seri Mengasih's principals, Madam Jenny Tam, also said in the interview before that the parent contribution to contribute in the financial are less than 50%. She has mentioned if they need a money for this organization around RM700, they only get less than the targeted amount. Non-profit organizations are not like other profit-making organizations, where the customers need to pay the service fees and from there they can make income to support and provide the best services to their customers. This can be the greatest challenges for this human service organization to support all the needs and expenses. To cover up these issues, Seri Mengasih Center had been found the other ways to solve these financial issues. One of the effective way to overcome these issues is making the fundraising every year. All goes well in a few years ago when managing the fundraising to help this human service organization in terms of financial because of the good economics condition. Unfortunately, early 2020, after the pandemic outbreak, it becoming the biggest issue to raise funds for these organizations because of the limitations during this time. This pandemic has caused Seri Mengasih Center need to postpone the operations to avoid the COVID-19 infections between the students. But the students are still continue their learning session as usual in their own home, guided by the teacher in Seri Mengasih via online learning. The guide that Seri Mengasih provide by calling or make a video call with the students and their parent to make sure the students are still doing their best even they are staying at home. Madam Jenny said to prevent the students to experience the depression during this critical time, they need to make an extra efforts, which is they need to make a video call or an WhatsApp with the students and parents. By making a video call and interact with both students and parents, they hope it can help them in terms of to reduce their stress and depression levels. Besides, during this pandemic, Seri Mengasih Center also need to do the reductions among the employees due to this crisis, and this caused the less enthusiastic between the workers. Seri Mengasih's workers were 30 staffs in total before the reduction, but after that only 11 staffs remains. To overcome it, Madam Jenny and the workers had come with the great ideas to gain some money since the fundraising was hard to do during this time. To support the organizations in terms of financial, Madam Jenny and her staff started to open the homemade bakery and a small nursery garden where they can started to sell their products to gain some money to help the organization. The other challenge of Seri Mengasih Center is to help their students to get a job after they go out from Seri Mengasih Center. This can be the other challenge because they need to approach the employers out there to take their students to be an employee and give them opportunity to experience the work they seek to or need. But not all the employer are willing to take them for a permanent worker. Instead, what they do is just give them the students of Seri Mengasih Center an opportunity to experience the work surrounding only for 1 or 2 months, only depending to their employer. As a principals of Seri Mengasih Center, Madam Jenny Tam really worried about her students' well-being in the future after they are no longer in the center. The next challenge of Seri Mengasih Center is to help the students with a future planning. Seri Mengasih is very aware about their students' well-being in the future because the students are not live in the center but with their own parents. As their students grow older, so does their parents, and this has made Madam Jenny afraid of because she worried her students cannot be independent enough to survive without their parents. This issue made Seri Mengasih need to think and make a future planning for their students to make sure they can be independent in the future without help from others. To overcome this challenge, Seri Mengasih Center need to teach and give the right skills for these students so that they can master it and use it in the future. By giving them a skills they can master, it probably can help them much.